I've been talking in the last several days about the way in which Christianity shaped fundamental Western values, human dignity, equality of rights, the affirmation of ordinary life. And I want to conclude this section with a reference to the philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche. In fact, I began the discussion of this particular chapter with a quotation from Nietzsche. Now, Nietzsche is famous for the saying that God is dead. It refers to a scene in one of his books. The book is called The Gay Science. And you have a philosopher who comes out of the cave. His name is Zarathustra. And he starts announcing, proclaiming the death of God. Now, all kinds of people come around him and they start mocking him and insulting him. And you might think that these are religious believers who are upset by what the philosopher is saying. But no, these are actually young skeptics, young atheists. And they think that this old man is kind of ridiculous, but he turns around and berates them. And he goes on to say what I want to focus on. Basically, his point is not to simply declare that God doesn't exist or that it's not possible today to believe in God. What he's really getting at, and it's a message more for atheists than it is for Christians, is that, hey, you atheists are sort of fools because you believe in all these sort of values that you swear by. You believe in social justice because, of course, you believe in human equality. You believe in redistribution because everyone deserves a share. And he goes, where do you get all this nonsense? Where do you get this absurd idea of human equality, this preposterous idea of human dignity, this babbling nonsense that human life is precious or has value? See, the point is, what Nietzsche says is, look, these values came into the West and into the world because of Christianity. God is, in fact, the author of these values, both historically, but also philosophically, conceptually. Think about it. If human beings are a mere extension of animals, why should human life have any more dignity than, say, animal life? Animals don't hesitate to eat each other. Sometimes they kill their young. They act in ways that we as humans would consider barbaric or savage. And Nietzsche's point is, why shouldn't humans be like that? What is the argument against that? Well, the argument against that is that, well, there's a divine author of the universe, and he made man in his image, and he gave man a special value and a dignity, and therefore these kinds of things that are common in the animal kingdom should not be done by man. So Nietzsche's point is this: you got to realize that if God goes, if we have the death of God, if we stop believing in Jesus and in Christianity, and the Christian influence begins to subside and abate in our culture, that has consequences. So another way to put it is that it is a preposterous illusion to believe that you can have the death of God without the death of the values, what Nietzsche calls the shadows of God, that came out of not just theism, but the specifically Christian form of theism that has shaped Western civilization. In fact, we sometimes use the phrase Judeo-Christian, but let's remember that the Judaic part was really focused on the Jews alone. It was a sort of tribal God and a tribal morality, and it didn't, at least in its original conception, appear to apply universally. Now, there was an assertion, and there is in the Old Testament, that God is universal, but in many ways, the Jews interpreted God as their God, very different from, say, the Greek gods or the Roman gods. So it is Christianity that universalized the principles of Judaism while at the same time modifying them in considerable ways. Remember that Christians, for example, don't follow Jewish dietary laws. They don't follow a lot of the codes and even some of the commandments, not the 10 Commandments, but some of the other more elaborate commandments that are laid out in various passages of the Hebrew scriptures. So Nietzsche's point is that as society becomes more secular, it's going to start losing the shadows of God. It's going to start losing not just the things that, by the way, Christians care about. For example, you may say, well, Christians care about the dignity of human life. So you're saying, Dinesh, that, let's say, abortion or infanticide is going to become more common. Yeah, I am saying that. But, says Nietzsche, there are things that atheists believe in. Atheists care about the idea of, let's say, being nice or being compassionate or being decent to other people. Nietzsche goes, there's really no good reason to do that. Atheists believe that you shouldn't treat other people as objects or things and take advantage of them through an exercise of power, either sexually or brutalize people or even kill them for your enjoyment. Nietzsche goes, why not? Why shouldn't you? If it actually gives you more pleasure to kill somebody else, and sure, then he may suffer more pain, but that's his pain, not yours. So the point Nietzsche's getting at is all of this kind of becomes suddenly open to question. There's no automatic basis. You can say that morality exists within you, but again, if you don't believe that there's some sort of conscience that's been implanted in you that we human beings all share, and if we all share the same conscience, well, where does that come from? Who put it in us? It certainly didn't evolve in a certain sense, because after all, evolution is based on self-interest, and conscience often militates against self-interest. So in sum, what Nietzsche is saying is the death of Christianity means the gradual extinction of values like human dignity, the right against torture, the rights of equal treatment asserted by women, minorities, and the poor. Nietzsche goes, well, you're going to have to give some of those, or really all of those, up as well. If you don't want God, you can't have the shadows of God.